Welcome back. On the previous videos, we imported the motions, we baked our physics, and now we are ready to do our final render. We're going to be talking about how to adjust the materials in a couple of ways. One will be the toon shader. We can actually render it with toon shader. The other one's gonna be the PVR settings, how to make it more photorealistic. So they both have their pros and cons. They both have their own little workflows. So I'm gonna start with the toon shaders, and let's get this going. So first of all, we're gonna click on our mesh. Within Junior, he added something pretty nifty to it. So over here on our material settings, and here in the material properties, we have a list of all the materials that the model currently has. Depending on your model, it's going to be in different languages. So this was in Japanese. You can also rename these ones to face or whatnot, however you wish. It doesn't really affect anything at all. It's only for your understanding, so you can easily find the materials, and you can easily hop swap them for different material from this drop down list if you so wish to. Now if we go into our render viewport, okay, shading, our model gets away from the Unia's viewport shading, which we had over here, right? We open up the shading and we have that here. Now if we press F12, which is going to be our render, this is what we get, this look. And it's not necessarily the kind of look you want. We want to get something close to this. So let's first of all try to do that in the Unia's way. So let's select this one, and the surface, we go the way down, and we go down here with the Unia's materials. Here you can click on it, and you have a lot of little neat little materials you can easily click on. We are interested in the last one. The last one he added in is the toon shader. We click on that one, and that one added a emissions to our texture. So we're gonna do that to every single one. Now to make it easier for you to select that shader instead of going down, down, and then going up, up, up again, let's grab this little tab. So this little dots, you can click on that one and you can drag it. I'm gonna drag it all the way to the top and place it here. That way you can click on the next one, click on this one, and then go in. So I'm gonna go down the list and add that shader to every single node. Okay, down, down. Now you can also just add this shader to certain aspects of your model that you wish them to be like glowing with some kind of emissions. It doesn't need to be all of it. So you can have different shaders, different kind of looks, depending on the final look that you're going after. Okay, so that's the last one. So here our model. Let me turn off the viewport. Looks a bit better. Not as good as the toon shader. So like how you get this, but the only way to actually render this is out, like I said before, would be to over here, view, render, viewport rendering, animations, or still image. But now we have this particular one, which this one now will interact with lighting, unlike the previous one. So let me grab this light, put it over here. Let me turn off the settings, drag the light around, and now you can see this one will actually interact with your world lighting. And if I go to this one before, if I do the same thing, grab the light, move it around, I really don't get any interaction with the world whatsoever. This one we do, and this one we don't. So keep that in mind, which one you're gonna be selecting and picking. Okay, so from here, we can now go to our camera and adjust our camera. So press turn everything else on. Press our numpad 0, and we go to our camera view. Right, like before, we can also go to the camera and camera view, and this will lock it to your camera. So wherever your camera, wherever you're pointing your viewport, the camera is going with it. So you can easily select. So let's go here, put it like somewhere around here, and we unlock it. Press F12, and now we have that image. Now you can pose your model now and then take the still image you want. Yeah. But we want to actually have the animation and then render the animation in the way we want to, right? So let's talk about that, and then we'll come back to the camera and import the emotions. We want to go over here to our output in the little printer, and here we have our, first of all, the format. Press these little 3 dots here, and you can specify your screen resolution. So here you want is something specific, like for instance you want to make a thumbnail for something you're gonna do later on in Blender, right? You're gonna want to make a thumbnail for your assets or whatnot. You want to have this one to be a square aspect ratio, so make 1,000, and now you see the camera is now a nice little square. You go to it, and now you see a square outline on it. But for quick and easy selections, you can easily just click on one of this, and your aspect ratio will change accordingly. Yeah, so we usually want to do something like 1080p, and it's pretty much where I usually keep my settings at. If I want to do 4K, instead of actually going up here and selecting the 4K settings, I leave it at the 1080p and then use this percentage output. So here I want to do like 4K, so I'll make it 200%, and that multiply by twice, making it a 4K image. Okay, so if you're running a pretty basic test, don't need to make a super large. Now let's talk about the frame rate. The frame rate you have here is will be depending on how fast you will actually run your animation through. So for instance, let's make it like something really fast, and then you see the animation is going pretty quick, right? You can even see this little guy is going right through it pretty freaking fast. Let's go to can I change this one manually? Custom, make something really small. Alright, so this is the frame rate in which you're going to be rendering and outputting your settings. So make sure you have this one properly. For MMD motions, they're gonna be made in 30 FPS. So ideally, you're gonna have them run at this speed, and they're gonna be working at the live. Up here, you see the current FPS, which is your current viewport, which is running. If you see this one in yellow or red, it means you're processing too many things in the background and it's not currently live. To check it live and get some like frame drops, you can go over here to playback in this sync drop down. Ideally, you want to make your animations, your editing or whatnot, it's gonna be in play in every frame. So every frame is gonna play like no matter what. But you wanted to make it play live, so you're gonna sync it to audio. This will jack up the frame rate, but then your animation might stutter or do some teleportations, as it's not working as in real time as much as possible. So for my case, every frame and real time is pretty much undistinguishable, so I'm just gonna leave it at the every frame. It doesn't matter at this point. Okay, so that's that one. Let's come over here to the time stretching. Let's say I have this motion that's made at 30 FPS and I want to render it out at 60 FPS. So I want to make a slow motion one. Here comes this time stretching mark. It won't mess around with your frame rate, but it will give you more or less frames in your final render. So let's make this one to 200% or 200 mark, and this is going to make this one like multiply by 2 by making it 60 FPS. Now down here you're gonna see our keyframes, and then you're gonna see another one going around. So it's gonna be splitting. One's gonna be reading the current animation, and one's gonna be reading the stretching mark. So let me play it. And this is running that. And now if you can see down here, these two guys are being separated, right? So the more time it goes, the further this one's gonna get away from the initial one. So your keyframes, so let me click on that one. As you see all those little keyframes that we made, they're being read down here, but you're currently being playing at this frame. So here, what you want to do, currently this animation is 4,100 frames long. So if I go to the very end, right, so I'm getting to the 410 mark, right here. This is not the end of the animation, but this is where my render is going to stop. So make sure if you double up your frame rate or decrease it or whatnot, you will also need to adjust your final render frame rate. So I double up my frame rate to 2, so I'm gonna place x2, so multiply by 2, and now you have your animations going to 8,200. So you can keep on playing, and it will keep going after the fact So you can click on here, and then all the way down to the 800 mark is going to be the end of the animation. And this is your frame rate. It's going right here. So make sure if you increase it, you also increase your render playback currently, or if not, you're gonna be short or missing some tracks. Okay, so that's pretty much how you play with these settings. So let me go back to 100, leave it as normal, and then divide this by 2, and then we're back into 30 FPS renders. Okay, so close that one down. Now let's talk about your output. Here you can just keep it on the temp file, which is going to be your computer, which by the time you reboot your PC it will get deleted. If you want to actually keep it, select a output folder. For me it's going to be let's see, tutorials here, image sequence. I'm going to select this one. So that's going to be my folder. And then for the file name, I can just type here whatever I want. Test render. Right, this is going to be the name of my file, which is going to be video or image sequence. Here, let me add that depending on your quality of the video that you want to be getting is the file format that you want to get. If for some instance you want like a semi-high quality image, you will go with PNG. If you want a really high detail, for instance, it's going to be doing something in cycles, then OpenXR might be the one you want to do, which has more data and a pretty small file size. For anime in toon shaders, since they're pretty how do you say low in definition, just not a lot of color depth, PNG most of the time is too much information, and rendering to JPEG will be good enough. Especially it's gonna be uploading the video into YouTube. YouTube then again is gonna compress it more, so you're gonna be losing a whole bunch of information that the PNG will keep. But if the video is gonna go into like a client, then you want to keep it at the highest quality and give them the highest quality possible. PNG or OpenXR might be the image format that you want. Now, if you want, for instance, take this image, but you don't want the background, we're gonna go up here to our render settings, and in film, right here, we're gonna click on that transparency. This makes this checkerboard, and you know this by like Photoshop and other program, that now if you press render, the image now has a full transparency. Anything in the background will not get rendered. Only your image gonna get rendered. So if you want to make some image sequences or any special effects that doesn't include your background, this is the way you do it. You're gonna go up here to the little I think it's a TV or a little clipboard and then click on transparency. And obviously the render has to be done in PNG or any other format that requires an alpha, but also make sure you have this one selected. If you press this one, then your background is going to be solid black. Right, so be aware that the RGBA, which says here in the little tool tip what it is, and they'll will render out your alpha as a true alpha. Okay, let me turn that off. We want to have something in the background. Now, if you came from MMD, you're kind of used to rendering your videos in AVI RAW. This, however, makes a huge ass files, and you're pretty well aware that those things are like massive in size. Not recommended at all to use that file format, especially if you're gonna once again upload it to like YouTube and the other streaming services. You are going for FMPEG video. It's going to be your MP4 format. So you can click your black and white or RGB, which is going to be color. It's going to be our color settings. Down here, so you're going to select your encoding type. So here you can QuickTime, Algate, or whatnot. Pick whichever one you prefer. I will always just go for this one if it's pretty basic, nothing special, and then use QuickTime if it's going to be like a pretty high definition video. And I pretty much will never use AVI here. And then you can select your codecs. F286, does it have F265? I don't think it does. Okay, so that's good enough. So you can select your quality ones. See, you might want to do some test renders, like change this to 100 frames and only render the first initial frames, and then come out again and test out whether or not you're losing some quality in your videos. If you are, then increase this one until you're like satisfied with your kind of video. There's no need to actually do a full render for entire video. Just a few render clips would do enough. In the scoring speed, it's also relevant to see how many artifacts you're gonna be getting. And then for the final one is if you are going to be rendering for a video, audio or not. Like right now, if you don't have an audio, it's going to be processed later on. There's no audio needed. You're good. But if this is going to be pretty much going to be the final video, you want to add an audio file. Here, you want to add, which is it's going to be MP3, and then which stereo or mono, and what's the bitrate. Right? So if you have a audio file in your timeline, it will render it out as well. If not, then it's not. Yeah. Okay. So to add a audio file. Okay. So let me see. Okay. So I need to create a brand new window and add a video. Kind of forgot which one it is. Okay, video sequencer. okay, that's the one. Then press add sound. Find your audio, wherever you want it, and then here you're gonna select the start and end frame. Well, for just a start frame. So if you're like right now, where I'm at, I'm somewhere in the timeline, this little guy, right, it's gonna select that number right there. This particular animation, like we decided in the previous video, we started at frame 60. So you wanna import your audio at that beginning of your animation. not at the not at 0, because that's our little buffer for our physics to get adjusted. So our animation starts at 60, and that's where when you add a motion strip, that's where it's gonna get imported. So I'm not gonna add one right now. There's like no need for this particular one, but that's how you end up doing it. And then you press N, and you're gonna see a panel that's gonna be able to control the audio settings, the volumes, or whatnot. So once again, you wanna add a little window by clicking on the corner icon or corner of the viewport, and then click and drag up, and then you have this little split view. Within here, you select this drop down, and we want to go into a video sequencer. Within video sequencer, we press add and add the sound. You can also add a couple other things to it. Now, to get rid of this little things, you can join areas, and then you can merge it up, merge it down. I just want to get rid of it, so I'm going to merge the top one down, join areas, top, down. And just for references, I'm going to leave this one here. I'm just going to make it like small, so I can still there, but for later on, if I still need it, it's going to be there. Alright, so with that is going to be the settings that you want to do for video. Now, let me talk about why you don't want to render it for video sequences. Video render. If you have a lot of stuff going on in the background, or a lot of things in your model, right, in this file, all that information is going to get dumped into your video card, and then you're going to get a bottleneck. And if you go out of memory, Blender either freezes or just crashes. And then if you're rendering to a format like, for instance, MP4, which if the video is not finalized, you lose your entire data. So I'm not entirely sure, but I think AVI or Monocorsola, if I pronounce that right, those, if you lose part of the information, the video gets finalized at that point. Right, so you don't lose entire things, except that you need to like splice the videos. But any other format, and like in my experience, if you render for a video, it's like, for instance, this one's gonna be 4,000 frames you're gonna be rendering. If the 3,999 gets corrupted and Blender crashes, your whole entire file will not get finalized. You need to re-render the whole entire thing. So if that takes hours and hours to render, it hurts a lot. Now, my way of always rendering, if it's not a simple test file, if it's like 100 megabytes or 50 megabytes, 100 frames or 50 frames, like a little test render, I will render it to video. There's like almost no loss there. It's pretty freaking fast. But if I'm gonna do something over like 2K frames, and it's gonna take several hours for the render to finish, I'm not gonna risk it. I'm going to go directly into image sequences. So here, instead of video, I'll pick either MPEG, or if it's gonna be like a toon shader, I'll just go with JPEG. In here, so let's do so this video, the animation starts at 60, so let's add our start frame at 60, and let's only render 100 videos, so 160. Okay, so it doesn't do much in the here. Let's go to like 130 for our test, and then 30 as our final. So let's render this little section out. Okay. Here we have some options that we have for our render settings. They're gonna be outputted into this folder, and then we have this little thing called override. Let me do this while I'm talking. So it's rendering those images. And once rendering those, if I press re-render again, it's gonna overwrite these images. Right? So you press overwrite, if you do a re-render, it's gonna rewrite the same file paths. If you, however, press this one and get rid of the placeholders, I can go and press render again, and it's gonna go through, which says here no frames render, they skipped. It's gonna read whatever renders were done in the past and then render from the ones it's missing. In this case, it read all the renders they already did and said like, oh no, you were done. Carry on. So let me open up that folder. So you can see there are documents. Oh, they are in year and sequence.
Snow said good morning.
So here are all the oh, the fuck is this at? Alright, so here are all the images. Let me go and add a bigger viewport. Open that up. And this are the sequences we made. Alright, so now you need to like put them into another program, or re-import them back into Blender and make them into a video. Now let's say Blender crashed on me and I only got this far. And let's say I want to render up to this much, right? So if I open up this up again, let me put it right here so I can easily grab it and press render. While I have placeholders, let me grab this one. It started from the last image sequence that I found and carry on from there. So let's go to here. Actually, let's make it here. Let's make it a bit more obvious. Okay, so 400 and grab that. Let's render. As you can see, it's like doing it super freaking fast. But it's not doing it from the beginning, and that's the entire point. So if you, for some instance, are spending hours and hours and hours in rendering, you don't have to re-render your whole entire files. You just carry on from the very last one, which was this one, and you just went on from there. Though you do have to go and find out, usually it's going to be the last ones or last couple ones. Check them, whether or not they were actually fully rendered or they got corrupted. You're going to see some dash lines on artifacts or whatnot. If they did, just delete that file. For instance, I just delete the whole bunch of the last ones whenever our Blender crashes. And then check the last ones that looks okay, and then go back into Blender and say it's like, okay, carry on, re-render, and carry on from there. Okay, so let me go back here and let's do a quick one. So this one we render, and this background, right? It's a JPEG. Now let's say we want to actually not have the background on it. Come over here again to the little TV and film. Let's click on transparency. Press F12, Control F12 will do your render for your animations. So press that one. It only did the 2 little renders that I deleted. So let me check that one. And here the background is not transparent, and this one is not. So it went and looked at the ones I already had, and only rendered the last ones that were missing. Now if I go back here and I press overwrite, press re-render again. Now it's going to every single one again. You can kind of see it here, and overwriting them, making the background transparent. Now this one should be done in a second now. You open up the initial ones, and the backgrounds are fully transparent. So you can add whatever you need in the background, some effects or whatnot. So if you choose to do so, it's right there. Okay, so that we're done with our renders. You can pick and choose which one's gonna be what you want. Now, actually, let me split the video and talk about the camera settings in another one, because this one's already fairly long. Alright, so with this, I'm gonna call this end of this particular video and carry on with the next one.